We need double live. No, single live's good. Okay, single live.
We're late. I was late, and then we talked, and now we're late. But we're here.
Yeah, that actually does happen a lot. We end up talking for a little bit. Again, we always say we should record our conversations before this, and we never do. And then we end up going a lot.
I desperately want to talk about the thing we were just talking about, but I can't put it to it.
We're trying to find a way to weave it in. I'll leave it to you to decide if you do want to eventually get there, but we're trying to find out clever ways to pull it in because for reasons.
I think I can figure it out.
National security.
That seems to be what everybody says anymore, right? If there's something they don't want to talk about, oh, it's too complicated, it's classified. Yeah. I don't know. The real thing on top of my mind is there's been more tech layoffs again, and the reason stated is AI, and it's bullshit. And I'm so sick and tired of this being an excuse, or it just basically people getting lied to. So many people really don't understand the capabilities of AI, and they're being misled. And I think that's just wrong. And it's not necessarily because the people are in the wrong or whatever. It's a really complicated technology. It moves very fast. The field is expanding constantly. It's like you and I live this, and it's hard to keep a pulse of what's even going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which usually means it's probably too new to be widely adopted.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Done. We did it. Podcast over.
Awesome. We're done. Yeah. Cool. See you guys next week.
So one of the things I was thinking about this week is actually, I think this morning, and if you replace the word AI in every instance with another word, does the meaning maintain? Does your fear about it maintain? And this is like a very simple philosophical test on something. And so the title and what I recommend people changing AI with is just the word computer. So if I say computers are going to be so intelligent that they will take your job, do you still feel the same way about it? I don't, for sure, because I understand computers. I use them every day. I have one in my pocket most of the time. But if I were to say CX14 is going to take over your job in the year, you're going to be like, what the hell is CX14? I know what CX14 is, and I build it, and only I can do it. And we'll tell you, but we're going to release CX14 to 5 companies to have them. For people who aren't really deep into the trenches on this, I'm making fun of Anthropic, OpenAI, and now Google for claiming magical capabilities of their newest AI models when it comes to computer security, but not providing any real evidence publicly, but saying, trust us, and we're giving this to a limited group of people that we control. And then I saw Anthropic today actually put out an update, which was basically a nothing burger again. It was making all these claims that, again, no one's been able to independently verify. And so if we take AI out of the equation, we just said, Andrew has this magic technology that'll find all the computer science bugs in all of your code and the internet as we know it, everyone's going to be like, that's insane. But because they've built this brand, they've built some technology that does work and people can interact with, there's a little bit more credibility. And I think people are so surprised by the capabilities of the technology, or they're being exposed to things that they don't understand, that there's the narrative is starting to run away, and the wildfire is set in, and everybody's becoming just totally and completely irrational. And that matters because, one, it's not true and real. These new models are good. They are finding things. I had a LinkedIn post I put up about it, but like TLDR, security is hard, and finding a security vulnerability is not enough to use it. You have to be able to, what would they call in the industry, exploit it. And oftentimes you do what would be vulnerability chaining. You chain multiple vulnerabilities together to get in. So if you can think about your Photos app, if I can find a vulnerability to read your library in the Photos app without permission, that's not super useful, right? Like I can see you have 1,000 photos. If I have a vulnerability in your photo library that will show me whatever image I want, now I can get into your library and now see whatever I want. And that might not be a bad thing. You might not have anything sensitive in there, and that's not the point. The point is that that's a really hard thing to do in general, and there's every software engineer trying to not make that happen. these models have gotten good at the first part, which is finding the bugs, and they're claiming that they can find all sorts of ways to attack vectors in your software, blah, blah, blah. The evidence I've seen directly myself, and I can only really speak from that, is like no. Yes, they can do it, but security is not a black and white industry either.
Right.
And security problems are not black and white. And the analogy that I used on the post was that it's like your house, where you live, your apartment, whatever. You live in effectively a box. It's usually 4 walls. It might be big, might be small, it doesn't matter. You have 2 components typically in a house. You have a door and a window, right? In most jurisdictions, you're not legally in a house if you don't have a door and a window.
Yeah.
And you have stuff in your house you don't want other people to have. So you have a lock on the door to keep people out that you don't want in there if you're gone and not home. But your window doesn't have a lock. Maybe it has a lock on it, but your window, it's really easy to break a window, right? I can throw a rock at your window. I can smash your window. I can get in your house really easy. I could probably get in your door too. I can either pick the lock, or I could like take an axe or something and try to break down the door. It's a lot harder. The point is that a window is much more vulnerable than a door is, but we choose to have windows because we like to see outside. We like to have fresh air. We like to have light. That's totally fine. But you are compromising the security of your house by doing that. And so what these AI companies are saying is, we found massive vulnerabilities in everyone's house. And it's sure. And sometimes, maybe to even be more analogous, it's like, we found a vulnerability in your door lock. So if I jiggle it 4 times to the left, it pops open and I could walk in. That's bad. We want to fix that. We want to replace the lock. We want to figure out why it does that. The second piece of that, though, is chaining the vulnerabilities together. The more apt, I think, analogy of this is that the AI companies are all saying, oh my God, we found rocks in your yard that we can use to break into your window. We found sticks in your yard. We can throw the lawn gnome through. You should get rid of all these things and only pay us and just take our word for it. And sure, maybe you do want to get rid of sticks and rocks in your yard for that reason or others. That's totally fine. But the fear mongering is the thing I have a big problem with. And the trust me, bro idea of, we don't actually see this publicly, is a huge problem I have. And this is a tale as old as time. And in our current environment, nationally and even in the world, we're in an era now where being able to verify information is more important than it's ever been. And I see the people who purport to claim that they're making safe systems increasingly lean on, they're safe, you need to trust us, we can't actually tell you or show you why.
Yeah. I from a very these are all AI models that they're looking at code, right? So in organizations where you do have an engineering team, development team, and you do have a security team that is either red teaming or doing something to evaluate the state of your code. I've been on the end of security people saying, hey, there's a vulnerability here. And they do describe how to get there or what it is and why it matters. So there's a triage element there, right?
Yep.
But with the influx of all these models that can do things, you don't even need that at the top of the line, right? You can just throw a model something and find a vulnerability, right? That's one of the things that I think I feel bad for a lot of developers who are maintaining code out there, is you're getting flooded with, you have rocks in your yard, you got to get rid of your rocks.
Yeah.
You're like, what the heck? And you're trying to sort through the basically the AI slop of the call outs of problems that aren't really problems.
Well, and it's not even rock. It's at this point, it's like, you have gravel in your driveway. Did you know that there's a million security vulnerabilities?
And now it's up to the developer to figure out, okay, this is not worth listening to. It's effectively like a DDoS on humans. It's like, you can't figure out what's what.
You bring up a great point, and a lot of open source projects are going closed source or closed contributors because everybody who has an AI thinks now that they can contribute software bugs. And I'll say too, a lot of times these vulnerabilities are vulnerabilities, but they might not be exploitable, or they might not be something you need to fix. Because just like in your house, you have a window, there's trade-offs in software where, yeah, maybe we actually are going to handle whatever data type in this way, and we understand that that's not the most secure way to do it. But if we do it in a different way, we can't serve the customer.
Lots of things break. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Or it's so complicated to have to try to troubleshoot that we're going to make the decision that we're going to do it in a less secure way, not a non-secure way, but a less secure way to make it function. Right. And anyone who has Face ID on your phone, it's a less secure way than typing in your password, because I could just take your phone and put it up to your face and run away with your phone unlocked, right? It's more secure to have to physically do something that you know. Anyone who's done password stuff, the best way to do this is to have multiple factors, right? You have
Yeah,
something
yeah.
you are, something you know, and something you have. So your face, a key fob that you control, and then a
Physical
magic
device, and then
series
yeah,
of characters in your mind, which is a password or a passphrase that you know. And then if someone steals your device and your key fob, they still can't get in. That sucks to have to deal with all the time. Every time you log into your phone, you have to have 3 things. Every time you wanna go to a website and check your email. So we make these trade-offs all the time, and that's fine. And some people are
mm,
like, "That's insane. Why wouldn't you have 3 factors?" And I'm like, "That's your choice, right? You're
you're right,
making that
exactly. Yeah,
trade-off." The problem I have is trying to convince everybody that the only way to do it is this, or we're finding all of these potential vulnerabilities that maybe are good, maybe they're not, maybe they're legit. And I noticed in today's announcement, I didn't, to be totally transparent, it was quite long and I skimmed it. I didn't intellectually analyze it, but I'm going to stand by this because I'm pretty sure I'm right. Was that they kept pointing to vulnerabilities. We found X amount of
mhm,
vulnerabilities. Okay, great. But again, not all vulnerabilities are equal. Not all vulnerabilities are exploitable. Some vulnerabilities are so incredibly complex and nuanced to exploit that it's not realistically going to happen.
yeah.
And a good example of this is the Spectre and Meltdown stuff. Some people have heard of this. There was some logic errors
Oh,
effectively.
wow, that brings me back. Yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
while, but
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in
Wow.
yeah, in
Yeah.
CPUs, and it was the end of the
Mhm.
world because the CPU is a trusted environment that processes data, and if you could exploit the logic on the CPU, you could theoretically control the computer. Well, it turns out
Yeah.
it wasn't really like that, and what I found interesting at the time, and we might have talked about it in the podcast, I don't remember if we did, it was everyone's, "You have to patch your phone, you have to patch your
Mhm,
computer, it's the end of
mhm.
the world." Most people patched, it was fine. People who played video games saw massive performance decreases in a lot of games. And so there was this big debate in the gaming community of should I patch or not? I can't play the
Mhm.
game if I patch kind of stuff. Patches got better and performance came back. But I think this is a great example of the same problem we're having with these AI models is that the Spectre and Meltdown bugs, for the most part, didn't really impact a user of an individual computer almost at all. And again, it's a very
Mm,
nuanced, hard conversation. The folks in the security industry who know what they're talking about, yes, I understand. But for most people, not really an issue. You're a single user on the computer. Yes, an application may theoretically have an exploit that can exploit it, and your web browser can see what's in your calendar. Maybe. The
mm.
big problem was cloud providers and multi-tenant, multi-user systems where you could have a nefarious actor on your server trying to snoop on everyone else. That's bad. We need to figure out how to patch that and mitigate it. So again, it's a continuum of understanding and always trade-offs of nuance. And I feel like we're not getting that part of this whole thing. We're just getting the, oh my God, we figured out a way to crash the entire internet. I've heard that before too. All software is rendered insecure. I'm like, come on,
Yeah,
don't do that.
yeah. Bringing it back to what you were saying before, right? The idea of blanketing all these vulnerabilities as equal and saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
we have something that has found all of these things, but we're not going to tell you what you need to do to fix them, or we're not going to tell you what they are
Yeah.
because that's classified information that only we can share." But that's causing this questionability about what AI is and what it's capable of
Yep.
doing. It is playing it up from the provider side.
Yep.
These big names can say that they have these things that can do this stuff,
Yeah.
but
And it's creating a
your
fear. I need
understanding person
mythos because
doesn't
I,
understand it.
yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and then you have these sort of middlemen, so to speak, saying
Yep.
that, oh, we have access to these, or we're going to get access to these, and therefore we don't need people like you to do your job. So we're going
Yep.
to use these bigger, better models that we know, quote unquote, we
And
know
I,
can do things that you
yeah.
can't.
And I knew this was bullshit when they released the companies that they gave it to.
Mm,
It was a few of the companies you would expect, and there was a lot of companies that I was expecting, like critical infrastructure companies, like
that we're not on the
companies that
list. Yeah.
build software to run power plants were not on the list. I was like number 1 in my mind of now everyone hides behind national security, but there's literal national security threats that we're facing. And
Mm,
like I would want those companies to also have early access if this is truly as good as they say and magic and all this. but they didn't do that either. Or even working with the government to be like, hey, we gave the US government so that they can, the FBI and DHS and all these organizations that we have that are supposed to keep us safe and it can help other companies figure it out or figure out a way to probe critical infrastructure. But one, the tech people aren't nearly as smart as they think they are. That's, I think, condition one, right? But
Guilty.
they're, yeah, no. And
Yeah.
most people I've worked with in tech are very smart people, but they're not know-it-alls.
Yeah.
And so there's blind spots, but we've positioned this stuff because it's hard to understand. It moves really fast. It's a lot of ambiguity. It's abstract.
Mhm.
It's like we've just go with the people who can tell the most compelling story and the easiest way to consume, which yes, we need that, but then we need to quote unquote double click into what does that actually
Trust and
mean? How is it
verify.
being
Yeah.
applied? Let's talk to the people who are building this stuff. Some of them think that it's intelligent and it's going to take over the world. Most people I know and I talk to don't. Right? And maybe they just haven't talked to me about it, which is the flip side. But nobody thinks this stuff's alive and intelligent. And should we have a test for that? Maybe, probably, but it's like math. At the end of the day, is stats at scale for transformer LLMs. There's a lot more that goes into it than that, but that's the fundamental model. It's learning patterns and associations that we proclaimed valuable. Because there's all sorts of patterns and associations that are totally useless and not valuable, right?
Yes, very true. And I would say, just in transparency, I do believe there are people in the field, deep people in the field who are on the opposite end of believing that something, try not to use the words here, but a super intelligent
Yeah.
being can be built, and they're
Yep.
advocating against it, right? So
Yep.
it's not that no one is saying that it's dangerous, but we have people on both sides, and maybe that's also contributing to the confusion around, is it something
Yep.
that can do stuff, or is it something that it can't? And so it's that
Yeah.
makes it more difficult to really understand from
And then
a layman perspective.
and as we say in America, follow the money.
Of course.
Who's benefiting from this?
Yeah.
And I think another thing I think I put on LinkedIn or somewhere on social land was that my prediction, I'll do it on the podcast live, is that as soon as OpenAI and Anthropic complete their IPOs, their initial public offerings, so they're going to go take a bunch of money from the public, all of a sudden AGI will now become a thing that's a far long-term goal. It's been long-term the whole time. It's not actually supposed to happen this year, even though they purported it. I like to remind people we have about 9 months before the AI is purported to take over everything we do and everyone we know. That's false, but that's what they've said. And I believe in accountability, and I've seen zero evidence that we're anywhere near close to that. Mythos is not that either. But all of a sudden, once they get their money and all the investors who have also been piping this up all over, and all the other tech executives and tech leaders who are all on this AI train have all cashed out because they're all getting money. They're all getting paid from this IPO because a lot of them are investors in this company or that company or AI, OpenAI or Anthropic, or or they're parts of funds that have exposure. So they're going to get money from this. They're going to be rewarded. All of a sudden the claims are going to be put into perspective. Right? AGI has been a long-term goal. It's farther that we're learning this. They're going to use all these words and all this terminology to cover their lie. And a lot of people will believe it because they either don't care to deal the details or it's too hard. I also think that it's going to get a lot more expensive. And we're already starting to see this a little bit where it's still a little bit deflationary, but companies, CFOs specifically, are starting to ask, what the hell are we getting for all this investment? And a lot of it, the answers are coming back as, we're spending a lot more money on AI in our product. Great. How many customers did we gain? We're not sure. So for product people out there, measuring stuff's always hard, but just burning a bunch of cash because it's cheap now it's never been a good idea in business. But the AI stuff from most companies I'm seeing is a low value add, if any. And it's also the real cost. You're pushing real electrons. Like software, in a sense, is almost free because you write it once, you have to run it, but the cost to run most software is pretty low. AI is not. AI is very expensive. The whole power data center nonsense is also not real, folks. Like we're not going to take the entire output of power of the United States and run AI with it.
So data centers are real?
No,
But yeah.
no, it has to do with to build the data center takes time, but the electrical connectivity for the data center and to the grid is a finite supply, and it's already oversold until 2028, and that's a
Mhm.
few weeks old, so it might even be longer. So, like, literally, there's a factory that runs electrons to and from a data center, and there's a very small supply of those, and those are not things that you can just go get at Walmart, and they're
This is
not
internal
things you
one,
can
right?
just build
Right.
very easily. They're very hard to
Yeah.
build, they're very complicated. The yields are pretty low. I understand they, like, blow up sometimes, like, which is better to blow up in the lab than in life, but
Sure.
right? So again, it's just lies and lies and lies, and what I guess maybe the takeaway is, like, seek the truth, trust but verify, but also follow the money.
Mhm.
And I'm very concerned for people who want to invest in these companies. Like, they haven't really given prospectuses yet, which is the document that you read about security, and they have to give you financial information about the company. SpaceX just did that. That's a whole thing we didn't pre-talk
Yeah,
about, but
yeah,
by
the
God,
numbers are confusing on
it's
that, but yeah, yeah,
bonkers.
yeah, yeah.
TLDR, SpaceX don't make any money. The only money they really make is from their satellites that have a 5-year life cycle, and that's really questionable if that'll make money in the
The number
future.
that they're claiming, yeah. Mm.
AI is burning cash, which I thought was really surprising because they just inked a deal with Anthropic. Oh, wait a minute. So SpaceX and Anthropic are now working together and have mutual, and they're both
So we're
going
talking about
IPO. Weird.
yeah,
Weird. That's weird how that
yeah,
works,
yeah.
right? And now they're both really pro AI. That's also why is a space company into AI? That's weird. Huh. This isn't a conspiracy. This is all factual information you can go look at. But that's not making money. It's probably not going to make money. And they say that in their prospectus, but they use coded language and then they try to hype you with it. And that's another thing to look
Mm.
out for once these IPOs and these prospectuses. Like, this is not investment advice, but I'm very skeptical that any of these companies, like, I just saw a report this morning, Anthropic is allegedly profitable.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. Until people realize that they're not getting value.
Mm.
There's large companies who are stopping use of Claude and stopping higher, more expensive models because money is not unlimited. And they're like, what are we getting for this? And Microsoft just came out, or I read an article about Microsoft has restricted Copilot usage internally. I don't know anyone with knowledge of this, but I read an article on the internet, and I know other companies are doing this because they're starting to look at the cost. Also, Microsoft is
Yeah,
a competitor to Claude, but it's expensive, right?
yeah.
And like, Google just went from a subsidized monthly flat rate for using AI to pay as you
Per
go.
token. Yeah, yeah.
And maybe that's cheaper for you because you're not using it as much or you're using it in better ways. But for most people, it's probably going to be a lot more expensive now. And so what I'm saying is conjecturing into the future, not super far, but it's already stuff that is happening. And it's just going to continue happening because anybody who understands finance is, you have to know what the money's going towards at some part of the day. And that's not to say you shouldn't invest in stuff you don't understand, right? You just have to know what your exposure is and what the downsides are, right?
That's part of the investment idea, right? You have to know what your risk tolerance is and
Yeah.
what risk you can afford to take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm not saying you have to know and understand in deep knowledge. You also have to know what happens if it doesn't work. Yeah. I think for me, to help AI psychosis is this thing that I keep hearing about too.
That's been around for a
And
while, right? People were
and
talking about that.
I think psychosis in general, of any time something is totally affirmational and telling you you're the best person in the world, probably bad. And that will
Including
lead
your
to
partner.
psychosis.
Including your
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think that the real easy way to decontextualize this and to get to more of the ground truth of it is just replace the word AI with computer. And in the 80s, anyone who's lived through the 80s, computer, you were going to transform the world. You're going to have your own computer on your desk and it's going to give you a Rolodex. You can have any software you want. Like, where have we heard this before? Right?
Mm.
And I'm not saying that AI isn't going to turn out to be a magical technology. It might, but we have to hold it in perspective. And as we were saying earlier, it's so new, it's moving so fast. Most people don't want to do that, don't care. And it's not the right
Mm.
fit. And there's a weird push on it. And the only reason I can see the big push is that because all these companies are so financially intertwined with everything, that everybody is in a vested interest to keep it going.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're talking a little bit, or I don't know if it's through text or not, but yeah, in situations when you have like feedback cycles, right? There's
Yep.
something super weird with this AI cycle where people are doubling down on making, whether it's making like whatever it is, right? For whatever
Yeah.
reason, it's feeding back into itself. And rather than make the rational decision of, okay, maybe pump the brakes a little bit, people are just doubling down and just going deeper and deeper into it, which I
And
find super bizarre.
it's a FOMO, right? It's people are being told
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
crazy. And
Absolutely.
I get it, but I'm also trying to help people break out of that and start to rationalize what is the problem that AI is actually solving for me. And in most cases, it's a cool toy. I use it every day, right? I
Mm.
literally every day, for better or worse, I'm using
Yeah.
AI as part of my job, and I'm also building AI systems. Okay, I'm an outlier for sure. But I'm also now of the opinion, as we kind of talked about last week, I don't know that it really belongs in any consumer product. A very,
Mhm.
very long stretch of edge cases where maybe.
Yeah.
But like I usually tell people when I'm talking with them, are you okay with your customer being lied to? No. Generative AI is going to
Yeah.
do that at some point. I don't care about the guardrails you put in. Somebody's going to figure it out, or somebody's going to have a weird blip in the matrix or whatever, and they're going to get lied to. That's okay with you?
Mm.
If a human does that in your business, you can reprimand them, you can train them. There's accountability. Maybe you go to jail if you're in an industry where lying is. And that's not saying you can't make a mistake. AI definitely makes mistakes, but AI also very much lies. It's very confidently wrong and has no problem doing that.
Mm.
So is that something you really want in your product? Is that something as a customer? I know a lot of people who are really anti-AI, and I get it because it's being forced on you. It's a solution looking for a problem in a lot of cases.
I think that's fair for a lot of technologies, actually. They usually are
Yeah.
solutions looking for problems to solve. If you flip down ahead of what you said before, right? What value is X or Y providing you? I think that's always a good lens to look at,
Yeah.
whether it's AI or social media
Social
or
media.
I just had to throw that in there. But just having that perspective, right? Being intentional with the things that you do with your life and how you consume your time is
Yeah.
always something I think I advocate
And,
for.
and try something different, right? That's like the theme of the podcast, I feel like at this point. But it's like, it's okay to not use AI. It's okay if you've never used AI, go try it. Just don't tell it anything you wouldn't want the world to know.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the best advice I ever got. I was in a news. Tom was on the podcast a long time ago, one of my former journalism professors, and best advice I ever got from anybody, I think, in life was never write anything down or say anything to it. And in this context, it was a reporter, but I would extend this to don't ever say anything to anybody that you wouldn't want to see printed on the headline of a newspaper.
That's interesting. I
Right. And it
kind of
was
remember
the
you
New York
mentioning that.
Times at
Yeah.
the time. And
Yeah.
kids these days
Yeah.
probably don't know idea what the New York Times is, but that used to be
What, New York Times, my
right
crossword game.
the most important paper in the nation for a while.
Aren't they a game company? What are you talking about?
I know, right? But but no, but we're working with AI. I'm like joking, but it's also like you have to assume the company is taking that information. You have to assume the model's
Yeah.
going to leak
Right.
it, or and but I think that advice in general is just good in life. It's don't ever say, and that's don't ever that should not prevent you from saying what's on your mind, and that should not prevent you from saying potentially inflammatory things, because I'm all for inflammatory things, but just I think it keeps you a little bit more honest to know that you have to stand behind the you say,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
don't have that anymore. And that's part of this podcast specifically today is I'm fed up with all these people getting laid off and fired, frankly, and they're claiming, oh, AI, and we're in a transformational time, and we're just going to pay the people we have more. That sounds like you overhired. You probably cleared out a bunch of your cap table or your stock options. You're going to give people 20% of what you saved. They're going to be like, cool, I get a bonus. And now a bunch of people are out of jobs.
Mm, mm.
That sucks. And like we were talking earlier, and like we talked last week, I think I'm okay with, in order to have a transformational company, you might have to fire people, and that
Right.
sucks. And I'm okay with that to some extent. Like I don't want to see anyone lose their job, but if you are trying to do something, you just don't have the right people, or you have to fire people. That's life. Then don't lie about it.
Yeah. I think that was the key
Right.
point when you
We are
mentioned
having
be
a
honest.
massive reshift. We're looking at new technologies. We've decided that 22% of the company doesn't fit that. Thank you for your service. We're going to make sure that you can eat and have insurance for 6 months, or the norm, 3 to 6 months. And good luck, right? And yeah, that sucks. But I also don't think we would see as much of this happening if AI wasn't the convenient scapegoat.
Yeah, I think that's the key takeaways. People are taking the easy way out and saying this magic technology is going to save us, so we have to invest in it.
Yeah, and I don't know, AI is pretty crazy. I think it's like,
yeah, fair.
It does really interesting stuff. It does really crazy. I don't know what else to say about it. Go try it. Just don't tell it anything you wouldn't want on the New York Times.
Yeah, that's fair. Good note to
Leave it there.
Don't say don't say anything you would be comfortable being on the New York Times. And maybe that's something to think about for the topic that you wanted to talk about.
Now I feel like we're just doing the thing.
We should just end it there. Maybe we'll talk about
maybe next cast. Let's do it next cast, because I do think the curiosity angle we were talking about.
Yes, I do like that. I like
and that's really what motivates me. So there's a teaser for next Friday. And we're late.
It'll be a fun one. It'll be a fun one. Yeah, next week.
Maybe we'll know by then.
Ooh.
That is a teaser.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we're usually on around 3:30 Pacific on Fridays. You can listen wherever. We're going to end it here late. So happy Friday.
Yes. All right. Take care. Have a nice weekend.